with your boy Ancient Albatross behind the scenes here as usual these days. But we have our new show Tuesday nights, and welcome. We have our usual suspects -1, just a solo show, Spiggs 18 here tonight. And just as a reminder, if you haven't already, be sure to follow us here on Twitch and subscribe to us over on YouTube. It's a great help for our channel, and we really appreciate all the support we've gotten so far from you guys. But without further ado, I'm going to let Spiggs take things away. Spiggs, what are we doing here tonight?
Your guys really effed up because you allowed the inmates to take over the asylum. So I feel for the audience. I feel for everyone. Both Al and Dean gave me control for the night. And, we decided for this Tuesday show, we were going to tackle, this is going to be our experimental shows. So we're going to each tackle topics. Al's up next week. And, when Dean did his shift in mind thinking when going over the Cypher System. So I wanted to talk about something that's probably near and dear to me. I want to talk about fun, y'all. Like, what makes a tabletop game fun? What makes it fun for a GM? What makes it fun for a player? And I know off the bat that's a loaded question, right? It's totally suggestive to each individual person, but we're going to try to ask the question anyway, because hell, why not? For reasons. And there's no right or wrong answers before we even get into the argument. Everything I'm going to say is my personal feeling, what enjoyment I get from being a player and from being a GM. And I want chat. I also took some answers from the Discord today, but I also want chat to let me know what your guys feel fun, and if you have any questions, as we moving along. I think last but not least, I also want to mention, does Cypher System facilitate fun? Because I think that's a great question to ask ourselves. And if not, how can it facilitate fun? What can they do to make it a more enjoyable experience for the GM and the players in the fun factor? We're not going to talk about like what makes a great game, as in the mechanics of it, but we're more going to talk about what makes it fun. When you sit at the table with some friends or strangers, and your guys sit at the table and have an enjoyable experience where everyone is having fun, either because they're scared because it's a horror game, or laughing because it's a beer and pretzels game, or immersed in the story of it's a serious intrigue game. Either way, is the game fun? Because that's what we want to talk about, right? Most people would say, in my opinion, that in like facing challenges or overcoming obstacles together as a team, like that's like the cookie cutter answer that most people, like when I Googled what makes a game fun, I got different variations of that answer, right? But that's kind of cookie cutter. We want to dig a little deeper. So let's talk about what experiences you get from a game that gives you that wow, that fun factor. Like, hell, that session was hella fun. I want to play again. I want to run back. I want to play with these people. So I'm going to tell you, we're going to tackle player first, right? We'll tackle player first because it just makes the most sense. I think there's more players than anything else. So, and I'm going to tell you in no particular order my top 5 of what I feel increases my fun factor. And don't mind the mess behind me, guys. I ordered a bookshelf. It was the wrong bookshelf. So I sent it back to Amazon waiting for the replacement. But it's going to, in like 5 years, it's going to be hella beautiful behind me. So just bear with me for 4.5 more years. All right. So before we even get started, I know chat already. Jason's already. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing. Jason Shadowmane, Gamer Mom Luna just recently got married, so let's give him a big CU. Congratulations. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. I wish you nothing but the best. Marriage is a beautiful thing, and now you'll get to experience it with everyone else. That is so awesome. Congrats, guys. All right, so this is my list in no particular order, right? I just jotted down a couple of ideas, and hopefully some of these will resonate with you. All right, so the first thing I wrote was comfortability at the table with the GM and the players I'm playing with. If you feel relaxed and safe with the people you're gaming with, you tend to be more open to let the good times roll. And the reason why I say this is I've been in hella good games that have been in awkward tables, and yeah, I enjoyed myself. The story was immersive, but I didn't have that fun factor. I didn't have that, I want to come back and play it again. And it had nothing to do with the GM or nothing to do with the players per se. We just didn't mesh well as a group. So, when you're comfortable around the people you're playing with, it actually loosens you up. You're more relaxed. You're more inclined to improv. You're more inclined to dialogue with other people. You're more inclined to follow whatever story the GM is leading you down. So comfortability is a huge factor for me personally. I wonder if chat, you guys feel the same, because the more comfortable I am, the more fun I'm going to have. Or at least the more opportunity for me to have fun. So if you guys agree with that, let me know in chat, but that's definitely was in my top 5. My second on my list was the feeling that your character, this is a good one because I have a funny story with this one. The feeling that your character or your group actually has an impact in the narrative of the game session. Let's be real. It's a crazy buzzkill for anyone's enjoyment if you feel like your character has zero involvement in the story. Like, you're basically an NPC that's traveling with the party. If you feel like there's no personal motivation for your player character, to even be in the game, how the hell are you going to have fun? It's really difficult to have fun when you don't feel like you're part of the story. No one wants to be a sidekick or an afterthought in the story. And the reason why made me put this on this list is I think John and I is on the server, but me and Charlie and John and I were talking like 2 days ago on the server. We were in one of the CU Discord chat rooms, right? And John was telling me a story about, and John's on the server, he could correct me if I'm wrong, but he was telling me a story about how he was playing in a D&D game, and there was a character who was trying to become a lich, and the GM spent about an hour and a half every session basically solo playing the steps this player needed to do in order to become a lich. So it was basically, if he was playing in a 3 or 4 hour session, he was basically wasting an hour and a half on one player's story arc. And everyone else was just basically, for lack of a better term, just sitting back and letting this person rock for, an hour and a half every game session. That would absolutely kill me and make me not want to play. I mean, the first thing I would say is, can you guys do this offline? Like, we only gave it for 4 hours or 3 hours or whatever it is. Do we really have to spend an hour and a half on one person? So when John told me that story, I said I had to add this to the list, and I felt his pain because I could guarantee you that hour and a half was not fun for John or any of the other players that were in the session. John said it was the least fun he've ever had in the campaign. Yeah, it could have been a great story, and it could have been a hella cool scenario, right? Because it sounds really cool that a player character is going to turn into a lich, and maybe after that character did turn into a lich, it became a lot better of a game session. But from the aspect of fun, how the hell is that fun for the other 3 people or 4 people sitting at the table where they're not engaged for literally a third or half of a session? Yeah, that was pretty. Chat seems to be agreeing that that was pretty crazy to me, and I don't think I would have lasted long. I mean, I probably would have had a conversation. More likely, can you do it offline? But yeah, if your character, anytime you're playing a game and you feel like a sidekick or afterthought, chances are you're not going to freaking have fun. Let's be real. That's not going to be fun at all. It's not going to be fun for anyone, right? So let me see what's the next thing I put on my list. Let me just scroll down these notes. All right. This one's going to sound a little silly, but I'm a sucker for plot twists. Right? I'm a sucker for a serious change in tone and feel mid-session or campaign. I guess what I'm trying to say is I get enjoyment from being surprised as a character and in real life. If my character's surprised and I'm surprised in real life, I personally find that fun. I know that this isn't something for everyone. Some people like consistency, but I'm the person that I like to be surprised. So Cypher System really excels in this, but I'm definitely a person that I always fall for the major plot twists, and those sessions are always the most enjoyable to me. So I put that on my personal list. So if you ever GMing with me, surprise me once or twice, 9 out of 10 times I'm gonna have fun. So surprises and plot twists are something that I personally enjoy, but I don't think that's something that everyone enjoys as a player, just me personally. So that's where I find enjoyment from. But if that's not for you, that's cool too. Because like I said at the very beginning, there's no right or wrong answers to this. This is just my personal list. We're gonna go over your personal list, and we'll talk about what Cypher System does to facilitate it for a player and a GM. All right. A compelling narrative goes a long way to not only holding your attention, but making sure you are having fun. I find that as a player, if the story is interested and I'm invested in the narrative and the plot arc, I will have fun even if some of my other demands aren't met. Totally agree with this. If I'm really into the story, maybe I don't have to be, I don't need the plot twist. I don't have to be fully involved in everything, but I'm still gonna have fun. So an interesting narrative it doesn't always equate to fun, but if you have one, chances are there's a higher probability that the players at the table will have fun and you will enjoy yourselves. So a compelling narrative is a must as a GM, and I think most players would say that. Jack wrote, the hard part about twists is that a good twist makes sense and isn't a surprise. When it happens, it should feel like things clicking into place, not pulling out the rug from under you. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily meaning like rock falls, you're dead type of plot twist, but absolutely, yeah, it has to make sense within the narrative. So yeah, I absolutely agree with that, Jack. And I think I wrote one more down. Let me see if I missed it, but I think I wrote one more down. I also took some from the group, which I'm going to read. Okay, let me just do this. Oh, I think that was it I wrote down. So what do you guys think of mine? Oh, no, I wrote one more. And I think this one goes without saying for me, but seeing everyone else at the table achieve personal character goals and building game bonds with other players can be very enjoyable, especially if you guys are comfortable acting out conversations at the table in character. Some of the most fun I ever had as a player is just BSing as characters with other players about the smallest things. There's something to be said about impromptu conversation or mini scene occurring between two-player characters that the GM didn't expect, the players didn't expect, but a crazy banter just builds. There's just something so fun about that. Even if you're not the character involved, seeing two other players like dive deep into the actual character and acting out what their character would feel in the moment is very refreshing. It's fun. It's almost, even if you're not involved in the scene, it's almost like watching a TV show. So it makes it hella fun to, when you're involved in the improv, character dialogue, or if everyone else, you're just watching other people in general having a dialogue. I think, to be honest, I think that's one of the reasons why the high-end actual plays do so well, is because they excel at that very fact. They excel at those character dialogues that doesn't necessarily, wasn't necessarily planned in the game session. It's just two people really diving into their character, really diving into their role, and just running with it. And that's hella fun to me. I don't know about you guys, but I love that. I love when players just start talking to each other in character, and some of the funniest stuff happens from that. So yeah, absolutely. So anyone else in chat, if anyone else in chat has some what they find fun as a player, and I'll read what the guys on Discord wrote, because theirs are probably better than the ones I wrote down. All right, so Charlie wrote, for those that know, Charlie's a regular on the Cypher Unlimited Discord server. He's usually on here as well. But Charlie wrote, for me as a player or GM, what makes a game fun is the suspension of belief and how well it treats genre in consideration of the rise and fall of tension or action. The liminal state of a gamer when you actually in the roleplay zone is more like meditation or a trance. That is where it feels magical. I think that's sort of like what I was saying about diving into character and having a dialogue, but Charlie's absolutely right. Once you fully immerse in your character, that could not only be hella fun for you, it's hella fun for everyone at the table. So yeah, great point, Charlie. You're absolutely right. Oh, Gus. Our friend old Gus wrote, domestics, life's outside of adventures, the GM intrusion of going to the grocery store, wrapping up loose ends, foreshadowing something new on the horizon, stopping to smell the roses and explore things more deeply now when the pressure is off for a moment. Yeah, those can be fun. The only thing about going to the liquor store, the only thing I will say is, going shopping can be fun for the moment until it isn't. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of mistakes where it's fun for the first 20 minutes of the shopping spree, but then once you have that one person for an hour and a half, trying to haggle on buying arrowheads and stuff like that, it becomes a chore and it becomes boring for everyone else. But I can absolutely see, the outside moments outside of adventures could be hella fun. But it just always made me think about when he wrote going to the grocery store. I think most people have had that horror story of that one person wanting to shop, for 2 hours. But Gus, that's definitely fun, and stopping to smell the roses is absolutely fun. Sir James wrote, I have the most fun when I'm feeling helpful. When I do something cool to make other players go, wow, that's awesome. Yeah, that is good. That is good when you're a player and you do something really cool and you get acknowledged at the table for it. So, because that is a good feeling. To be complimented it's always a good feeling. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, it makes me smile if I'm complimented. And I think most people do as well. That makes me think that when someone does something really cool, I should be more proactive and let them know that, that was a cool idea. I mean, I try to, especially in con situations when you don't know anyone, but I should do it more often in my regular games as a player, because I think that does increase the fun factor. And I'm going to say this, even though we're talking about we separated player and from GM, it should be everyone's, I wouldn't say responsibility because that's a strong word, but it should be, everyone should have a role in other people's fun at the table. You should be conscious of how much time you're taking up in the scene and is it fun for everyone else. So maybe giving out compliments is a way to increase the fun for everyone else at the table. I think the chat seems to be really liking the compliment. So I'm going to give the chat a compliment. You guys are freaking awesome. And I love all the activity and all the great comments everyone's already putting in. But Lord and Lady Mills, well, whenever I get complimented on, I probably do more. That's a great point too. Yeah, once someone sees, oh, I'm actually involved in this group, I'm making an impact in not only in the story but the overall effort, the overall mission accomplishment of the group itself. It makes you more invested. It makes you want to, actually be more involved, get involved in the dialogue, get involved in the scene. So yeah, that's an awesome point. So now, what mechanics do you think the Cypher system does well that facilitates fun for the players? I have a couple down, but I'm really curious to see what chat thinks, because I know our chat is full of GMs, right? So the first mechanic that came to mind for me was the player intrusion mechanic. And I think this is what separates Cypher from a lot of other systems, is that Cypher allows the player to take some agency and actually take hold of the narrative, even if it is for a few seconds, to instill fun into, if a fight scene is getting stale and dead. And sometimes I institute intrusions that are not necessarily an advantage to the party, but I institute intrusions that are fun, because it's gonna, it'll make everyone relax a little bit, maybe make everyone giggle, And the perfect example I could give of that is the first game that Sean K. Reynolds ran with us when he did, what was it? Chaos at Central Park, his superhero one shot that he ran on the CU on this server, and there was a scene where there was a big bad that we were fighting, and I asked, could the big bad be my ex-girlfriend? I had no advantage from this, but it made everybody in the table laugh, and that NPC became more impactful to the session and to everyone else. So now everyone's like, oh, okay. Like if there was any interaction with that session, it was like, yo, talk to your ex-girlfriend. And it also made it fun for Sean, because he brought up that we had a pet turtle, and then it actually advanced the narrative. So I think Sean enjoyed that player intrusion, because it made it fun for him, because it gave him something to riff off, something to improv on. All right, the other mechanic that I added is applying effort to very hard tasks. And the reason why I say that is because it allows players to do I'm sorry if I curse, but to do the impossible shit with enough effort. And there's something hella fun about, something super fun about being able to accomplish a task that your character has no way of accomplishing, but you get a high roll and you've applied some effort, right? It lets you do the impossible, even for just once in a session. And if you apply effort and fail, it's also can be described as like you took all this time to do something, and it's hilarious that we'll narrate that you applied 2 levels of effort. So either the GM or yourself described that you really took time to concentrate. You looked over at your party and said, "Don't worry, I got this. I've been this has been the moment of my life. I've been born for this," and then you freaking fail. That's also hilarious. So either way, if you what you call succeed or fail, it can increase the fun. So that's why I added. And if you disagree with this, let me know in chat too, because once again, there's no right or wrong answers, but I think applying effort could be hella fun as a player. Oh, Brilliant Loser wrote, rolling one is always a good time. Yeah, absolutely. Rolling ones and 20s can always be fun. Let's see what else. Oh, chat's moving so fast, I can hardly catch up. Hopefully, I'll catch some of those. All right, the other thing I put is the looseness of the player's skill system and Cypher system, in my opinion, increases the fun for a player. One, it increases the fun in character creation, because when you have a loose skill system instead of like a hard defined skill system, like say something like champions or GURPS, right? You get to be more narrow on what your skill choices are, and you get to hyper focus on building the character that you want. Right? I'll use an example. I've used it. Dean played. We had a superhero campaign that Dean ran, and I was playing. Essentially, I was trying to recreate Alex Keaton for Family Ties, but with superpowers. And one of the skills I gave him was Reaganomics. One, it was fun for me because it was stupid to have the skill Reaganomics. And it was fun for Dean because Dean made it a conscious effort to try to incorporate that in one of my roles so he could say, hey, Anthony used his Reaganomics skill. And everyone at the table was like, oh, how the hell is he going to use, how the hell are we going to figure out, to get him to use Reaganomics? So I thought it increased the fun. So I think the looseness of the skill system, being able to be as narrow or as broad as you want in the skill system, it makes you think of wilder stuff. It makes you think of wilder skills that you wouldn't normally do with a predefined skill list, like, that you would get in, some less narrative systems. So I really appreciate the looseness in the player's skill system. It isn't always the greatest mechanically, but for the fun factor, I think it's it's A1 plus. Let's see, Jackwell, every time you use your power or the access power trickles down to other players. Oh, that must have been from a separate question. All right, and the last thing I wrote was sharing XP between players. I always make, when someone gets an intrusion, I always ask as a GM, I always ask the player, why are you giving this player the XP? And sometimes the funniest thing, sometimes some of the funniest examples happen just by that simple question. And anytime you could break levity, especially with a group that isn't familiar with each other, or we tend to play a lot of games with strangers, whether it's cons or on the CU Discord with people that we may have met once or twice before. Anytime you get an opportunity to get the players at the table to have a funny moment between them, it loosens everyone up, it relaxes everyone, and it opens up the door for more fun. It opens up the door for everyone to be relaxed, because I'm a firm believer that if you're relaxed, the good times are going to roll a lot easier than if everyone is still a little, tense or have a little anxiety being around strangers. So the quicker you can get everyone feeling loose and comfortable, the quicker the fun's going to happen. So, sharing XP and making, even if the GM doesn't ask me why I'm giving the XP as a player, if I see that that's happening, I'm going to say, hey, I'm giving you the XP because, that thing you did a few minutes ago was so funny. I want your character's going to need it. You're rolling terrible, whatever it is, but it loosens everyone up. John wrote, another thing really fun is when the GM incorporates elements of your character into action. Car Surfer is an example. If vehicles come to play, it makes you feel like your choice matters. You could argue that car surfing allows you to balance better, but having an actual chance to car surf here and there, that's very satisfying. Yeah, that's a great point, John. Anytime you can get the player to improv their answers or their abilities to make it fit in, even though it may not necessarily fit in for a skill, you give them a moment to think. You get the other players helping them, especially if it's a role that's very important for the overall group. You not only are you going to get the player trying, go, hey, can I use this? You're going to get other players saying, oh, maybe he could use the skill this way because, and once again, it increases group cohesion, which increases makes everyone more relaxed, which makes the game fun. And sometimes the responses are fun. Sometimes the responses are funny. Sometimes the responses spark dialogue, which increases the fun. So yeah, that's absolutely a great point. R. Stockdale wrote, a lack of skill limitations really open up people's minds to what they could do. Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Brilliant loser, and trust me, I know because I've played with it. Bullshitting that my skill applies to random sets mid-session has made me better at job interviews. I've actually played with Brilliant Loser several times on stream, and I can attest that he absolutely tries to use every skill for anything, and I love it. It makes me laugh, so keep on doing it. Anytime you can have a conversation or a discussion, and sometimes I'll say no, sometimes I say yes, but the conversations, the haggling, the conversations are always fun and funny to me, so yeah, totally agree. Al says, I always tell new players in Cypher they could try anything. Skills just make things easier. Yeah, I really think that, this isn't only apply to Cypher though, right? There's a ton of narrative systems that, Fate comes to mind. There's a ton of narrative systems that have loose skill-based, skills that, creates the same framework. Jack wrote, in some scenes I use fast turns and slow turns from Shadow of Demon Lord, which is a great game, by the way. Fast turns are when you do just one quick thing. Slow turns is when you try to do more than one thing. If the PC fast turns, NPC fast turns. PC slow turns, NPC slow turns. It's a quicker way to handle initiative, keep things moving. Yeah, I love Shadow of the Demon Lord, and I could definitely see that incorporated to Cypher. We all know that Cypher's a plug-and-play system, so I love it when people mention in chat or mention on the server about, plugins from other systems that work. Like, people always mention the clocks from Blades in the Dark. I don't see why any of those things, it might take some tweaking, but I don't see why any of those things can't be incorporated into a specific Cypher game if it's going to increase the immersion and the fun. Yeah, bringing in other game systems. And Cypher's the perfect system to that. Cypher system is like a Lego block. You just take a block out, put a different one in. There's very few mechanics that would not work in Cypher because there's so little Cypher mechanics that makes it so easy to add additional mechanics if your group wants it. So, do you think we covered all the bases as fun as a player? I know we probably didn't cover them all, and I'm pretty sure people on Twitch or YouTube, and if I missed any, the chat was moving so fast. If I missed anything, you guys wrote in chat. My apologies. But let's move on to the other side of the screen. And this, I had a hard time coming up with this list, y'all. So I'm gonna need your help. And to be honest, I didn't put many things down, because I really didn't know. The ones I put down are like the obvious ones, and I'm kind of ashamed of myself. But as a GM, right, where do you get your most enjoyment from as a game master? Me personally, I feel a lot of people forget, especially new game masters, that you're a player too, and you should be having the same amount of fun as everyone else at the table. I find that a lot of new GMs forget this point, which increases the tension, and then it becomes a chore, it becomes a job to you, instead of being excited to run a game, knowing that you're going to have fun with your players, knowing that it's going to be fun. And, I just wish more GMs try to maximize their enjoyment as a game master as much as they try to maximize the amount of enjoyment they're giving their players. Because one, I think it's going to make your games better, right? I think it's going to make you, when you out for yourself, like you also want to have fun, you're going to be more creative, because you're more creative. I'm a firm believer that fun brings comfortability, and you're more creative when you're comfortable. So if you're having fun, you're more comfortable, you're going to be more creative, especially in those moments where you have to improv. All right, so here's the list I wrote, and I know this is probably isn't a great list, so I need your help, chat. But the first thing I wrote, and this is the obvious one, I think Matt Colville said this like years ago, but if the players are having fun, I'm having fun. There could be nothing more rewarding as a game master than seeing the whole table of players smiling, laughing, and engaging with the storyline being presented to them. I mean, I know that's a cookie cutter answer. That's obvious. It also applies for if you're running a horror game and you're scaring the shit out of the entire table and you could see the fear in their eyes as you're narrating a scene or as they're moving through something that could be very deadly to them. You can see the concern on their face. It's, you could tell that they're immersed in the story and enjoying it. It's the cookie cutter answer, but you have to say it because if there's nothing like looking at a table and you just either finished a combat or finished a really important conversation between players or NPCs, and you see the whole table smiling and laughing. Just as a GM, that warms your heart. I don't know any GM that doesn't want to see their players happy, and that's at the end of the day, that's kind of what we do this for, right? If you're running a game, you really want your players to be happy, having a good time. So I would put that number one, even though I know that's the cookie cutter answer. All right, there's some other. I know I'm gonna get to some of the chat, but I know everyone else is asking. The other thing I wrote, right, is when the players are totally surprise you as the game master, but taking the scene or the narrative in a totally different direction you weren't expecting the game to go through their actions. This is probably my favorite part of GM. This, hands down, is the thing I get the most enjoyment and fun out of. Having the players force me to adapt on the fly. That's the most fun I have as a GM. I could tell a hell of a great story. I could have a great time. The players get all my puzzles. They get, they enjoy all my combats. But there's something about sitting at the table, right? And I can't describe it. You plan a scene in your head, or if you're a planner, you write out a whole scene, and in your mind you think of like 10 or 12 different ways the characters can overcome this obstacle, and you get that one random person that does something that you do not expect, and it changes the entire session. You go from, okay, we're going to improv the crap out of this, bear with me, we're going to go with it. There's just something so enjoyable as a GM. I'm just smiling even thinking about that. That makes me happy. Like, one of the guys in chat, that's my favorite part of GMing. Oh, Jack wrote a good one too. When you do the NPC voice the first time you tried. I am horrible with voices, but the one or two that if I nail them, I am totally happy, and you're definitely right. All stock or what? I stopped having correct answers to my puzzle. I let the pencil figure. Absolutely, that's also a great way of doing it. But it's just the fact, just having the players change the story for you, or just something they did, utilizing ability a way that you would have never thought. Friending an NPC that was some random person that becomes a major part in the story. All those little things that you don't take into account are the most enjoyable for me. Like, there's just something about that I personally enjoy. I just think it's fun. And once again, if I'm having fun, it's going to translate to the players. It's going to translate to the table. So yeah, absolutely, the players surprising me is definitely something I would put on my list. And the last thing I put, and I'm sure Chad could definitely give me some more, but the last thing I put is player and GM group setting and world building. And I know that some GMs, right, enjoy full control of the setting and allow the players to just have agency of their characters and their actions. But I love it when it's a group process. I love it. It's fun to me when we collaborate as a group on the world together. It's fun to me when the players name NPCs. It's fun to me when players name places in the world. It's fun to me when players turn minor NPCs into major characters. One, because I'm lazy, like Ken have just said, and two, because when everyone's invested in the story and in the world, even like I hate the argument, right? And I've heard this argument quite a few times, right? Like, oh, that only works in a one shot. It doesn't work in a campaign because you lose the cohesiveness of when it's a campaign. You need the GM needs to have everything, has everything in order, like everything has to make sense. And my answer to that is why, right? Why can't it work in a campaign? One, you could take notes. Two, the players could take notes. Three, you could do a recap after the session, like on Discord or something, where everyone puts in what they added. And as the GM, if you really a planner and you really want to, have this full out, laid out list of the lore in the world, you could take what the players added in later. I never understood that concept. Like, okay, you want control of the world, but there's something to be said about the investment of a player when they feel like, in your game, when they feel like they had a hand in the actual overall world, the story. It feels like it's their own. It feels like they're not just showing up to play a character in your story. It feels like it's your story as a group. So, I personally have fun as a GM doing it that way. I know some people don't, but and I'm lazy. I'm hella lazy. I keep it a buck. I'm hella lazy. When we introduce a random player, my first response is, what's that player's name? And sometimes you catch players off guard, but then sometimes, you get people that play with me enough immediately have some names in their head, and then, okay, that becomes canon. Or if they want to visit someplace or a store that wasn't planned, have them name it. One, it's fun for you because now you got to remember this name, and it's fun for the players. It's fun. Player agency and GM agency should be mixed. Like Stocko said, he said they must not cross. They can create in the other person's space and support the agency. I don't know if they cannot cross. I'm not sure if I totally agree with that, but I think that player agency and GM agency should work hand in hand together. I don't think there's like a hard to find line, because the one thing a GM can do is the GM out of everyone else has the ability to autocorrect. So if something doesn't work in that particular session, it can always be autocorrected. That's something a player doesn't necessarily have the ability to do. So even if the player adds something that doesn't make sense or isn't fun for the group, you can always autocorrect it as a GM. And with GM intrusions, you could do it on the fly in the moment. So I absolutely think that, allowing them to have the ability to, partake in the story is, helpful. He won't not cross. I said, yeah, I can't tell you what the player, as a player, I can't control the GM's NPCs. Oh yeah, absolutely. Sorry if I misunderstood you. Stalker, well, you have a brother. I know a guy is totally reasonable. When I first started, it just reminded me of this story, but has nothing to do with what we're talking about. But Stalker was something. When I first started as a player, right, I learned how to play D&D and role-playing games in general in first edition, second edition era, GM versus the player movement. When I was like 13 or so, I played this character named Vlad Talos that always died. So we just made it that I just had like an infinite amount of brothers. So it went from being a twin to being a triplet to being a quadruplet. I don't know what made me think about it, but I played the same character, with like Vlad Tyler with a different, a different initial for like, a good 6 months. He literally had like 8 brothers. I'm going to play two more horrors, by the way. So he died like 7 times, and he had like 8 brothers. It was hilarious. I was close enough. I was a ranger. So there was a pile of dead Rangers. And if anyone knows anything about first edition, say AD&D, Rangers were kind of useless. So there was a pile of dead Rangers after that session. It was hilarious. Yeah, I don't know what her name made me think of the Vlad Talos story. Oh, we got some more. We got some what players thought about some of the Discord chats. So what they thought was fun as a GM. I'll read those. Ernst will. I love that if I fully disconnect from reality and immerse myself in fantasy, that I get to bring folks along with me. That's a great point. I didn't even mention that. You know, let me know if I'm crazy, right? Just bear with me. Am I crazy to say that you could get in a zone as a GM? Like, you ever had those games where you felt like everything was clicking? Like, I know Jack mentioned it earlier, but like all your character voices are on point. Your transitions between scenes are just a thing. They just, perfect. Like that, when you in that zone and you feel fully immersed at the table, you feel like in your mind you ready for whatever the players are going to throw at you. And I kind of think that that's what they were trying to get at with this statement. And then to see all the players are just right there. It's like you guys are doing a dance together. It's almost like, it's hard to describe. It's almost like a trance. And yeah, absolutely. When you get in that zone, man, watch out. And it's even better when everyone's at the zone. There's some games where, everything doesn't go right, but one thing happens and it's like a light switch goes off and the entire table, even if it's for the one scene, the ending scene, you're all in that zone together. That's a freaking special thing. So I'm not crazy because chat seems to be agreeing with me. They said it's the liminal state. Everyone seems to be agreeing that it's absolutely, there is a zone. Zeldaddy wrote, when you have a fantastic night and the players are feeling it and they elevate their play, that's kind of what we love for. Absolutely. You're 100% right. You live for those moments. You live for those moments as a GM. And those are the best after session moments. Like when the session, and you killed it. You had a good session, right? And everyone leaves, whether they tell you they had a great, you just know deep down in your heart, like, I was in the zone. There was nothing they threw at me that I couldn't handle. They didn't even know what I improv'd and what was prepped. And that feeling that feeling of satisfaction that you did your best, that's fun. That falls under the fun factor, y'all. I would categorize that as fun. And it's better. And then also you can rely on those moments when you have those bad sessions, because GMing is like, all right, this may sound like a little off topic or a little rough, but GMing is like drugs, right? You're always chasing that first high, that first zone moment, right? And I know it's not a great example in this day and age we live in, but once you feel that zone once, every session, you want that feeling again. You want that feeling at the table. You want that feeling afterwards when you did the best you could do, right? And that absolutely falls under fun. Chat's all agreeing and saying when your story works. There's a ton of things that can get you in the zone, right? Brilliant Loser said an unfortunate comparison, but it's true. Like those drug addicts are always chasing that first high. You always chasing that feeling you had when you first nailed it, right? But the difference between drugs and GMing is drugs, you're never going to get that feeling. You're never going to catch that feeling again. But in GMing, if you're good enough, you can catch that feeling every weekend. Every Friday session, you can catch that feeling. So, that's the one difference, So, roll dice. Don't do drugs, kids. You can get the same feeling. All right, Sir James wrote, I feel happy creating a space that my friends can play playing. My plane walking game is probably the reason that the friend group has continued to hang out, despite many moving to different cities or provinces. Same thing with another group that is all doctors, friends from medical school, all gone to different provinces. It's easy to lose contact with people. Or similar with other local groups of doctors, all adults with kids and demanding stressful jobs. People casually leave, relaxing and caring for themselves as the last thing on their to-do list. My job is pushing that up the priority. That's another great point that I didn't bring up. You know, keeping friend groups together through GMing, that has to be satisfying and fun, knowing that you have these friends that have all grown up, moved to different cities, yet you're still managed to game every night because everyone is having fun. You know, and anytime a GM gets a good feeling knowing that they're accomplishing anything and bringing enjoyment, you know, it's a fun factor for you as a GM. And Sir James, I could definitely see why that would be fun, knowing that these people probably wouldn't be talking to each other if it wasn't for the regular, you know, monthly scheduled role-playing game. They probably wouldn't be keeping in touch with each other if it wasn't for the regularly scheduled monthly, you know, role-playing game. So that absolutely would bring fun and joy to a GM. I could definitely see that point. Let's see. Stockton, my game group has been together since 2001. The 3 release, we survived, moves to California, 3 campaigns in, medical school and children. Amen to that, brother. God bless. I'm still in contact with my junior high school gaming group, even though we don't game together. And I would love to be able to sit down and, you know, roll some math rocks with those guys because I had so many great memories. And fun fact, I was part of, before Cypher Unlimited even started, I was part of my monthly gaming group when I came back to role-playing. We were actually role-playing Pathfinder. And that's how me and Al, maybe like 10, 12 years ago, that's how me and Al became really close friends. I was actually a friend of my friend that we became really good friends. So yeah, you know, that's hella cool. All right, so guys, what mechanics do you think are fun for a GM to use? I put the obvious one down, GM intrusions. You know, I think that goes without saying that not only is GM intrusions the GM whiteout for a GM, it's also a way when your sessions are getting dull that you could instill incitement to the game, or just add, if you want to add something gonzo, you want to add something, you know, serious, you could change the tone of any game with intrusions, which could increase the fun factor or decrease it for that matter. Like the other one I added, and Jesus, for your mind reader, I put horror mode. I put horror mode in everything. I'm like that little kid that puts ketchup on everything. Horror mode is my ketchup because you can utilize horror mode for not only horror, you can utilize it for anything. Just the concept of a scaling intrusion works on pretty much everything, for stress and fun, for romantic mechanics. The horror mode mechanics is just freaking genius. And yeah, we've used horror mode or a variation of horror mode in so many different styles of games. It's just such a simple, elegant mechanic. I just think it's so much fun. Jack wrote success at cost failing. Forward, yes. Not a mechanic, but more narrative too. Absolutely, yes. You know, failing forward is always could always add to the fun factor. Billy User said horror mode and a romantic scene. It's happened. We've done it. I'll show you offline. Right. The other thing I put in here, and this doesn't necessarily only apply to Cypher System, but I think Cypher System's overall design philosophy is based on this. So I'm going to say it. The rulings over rules philosophy. I think rulings over rules philosophy pushes the fun factor for a GM more than anything else. Anytime you break immersion or you have complicated rule sets that, as a GM, has to occupy some of your mental space, just remembering all these rules, just having to incorporate all these rules fairly so you're not getting them wrong, having to rules lawyer, having players that are rules lawyers, stopping immersion, slowing, having all these discussions, right, to me, kills the fun factor. As a GM, if I make a ruling and it's quick and easy and we move on, it's a non-insequential scene, it's not important to the story, and then a player goes, but this rule exists, why are we not doing this? It stops the game, stops immersion, and kills my fun. We're talking about fun as a GM. That is the fun killer for me. I'd rather just make a ruling, and if I got the rule wrong, if I got the rule right, if we could have used a different rule, okay, we'll figure it out after session, but just as the game is going on, and God forbid you're in that zone we talk about, right? To have someone break that immersion, to not follow the rulings over rules philosophy, that's the killer, y'all. That's the killer. Takes you right out of the zone. Right out of the zone. And the last thing I wrote for GMs that could add or subtract to the fun factor is ciphers, what the system is named after. Let's keep it real. There's nothing more fun than having a player use a cipher that in no way that it was intended for, and it just makes, or they use it in a way that backfires fabulously in their face, that changes the whole narrative. Ciphers add so much to the fun factor. We've had fun times with players losing ciphers, characters stealing ciphers, a player hoarding a cipher the whole game and having players say, hey, why are you not using this one cool thing you have? Oh, because I'm saving it for a special moment. But why are you not? It just ciphers add so much to the Cypher system, and I think it adds to the fun factor. Chat, do you guys agree with that? Do you think ciphers add to the fun factor? Zeldaddy, well, I love subtle ciphers. Absolutely, me too. I absolutely love subtle ciphers. I guess what I'm just trying to boil down is like just this whole conversation. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answers. Lady and Lady Mill, Lord and Lady Mill said, I always get a smile when a player starts talking about, hey, can I use this thing to do something weird? Hell yes. And I know your response is, you better. Sure, let's do it. Jack Space, it's like adding fireworks without a forest fire. Totally agree. That is absolutely, ciphers are so much fun. I guess what I'm boiling down to in this conversation, because we're about hitting an hour, it's be sure if you take anything from this conversation, right? Because there's nothing in here that's set in stone that you have to follow. This is just what my personal opinion is on what I find fun in games. Is find your fun. At the end of the day, I just want to have this conversation to say that, please, whether you're a player or a GM, find your fun. And the whole reason why I wanted to have this conversation was I saw a YouTube video of another content creator, which I'm not the hugest fan of, so I really don't want to promote the person. But their argument, they were having a similar conversation, but their argument was the opposite. They were trying to argue that it's not a GM's job to have fun for the players or to have fun themselves, really. It's the GM's job to tell a compelling story, and that the story takes precedent over agency, over the players, over everything. The most important thing that you as a GM should think about is telling a story. And I'm going to call bullshit on that. I play games for fun. It's called a role-playing game. The word game is in the title. I don't care if we tell a cohesive story. Is it good that we do? Yes. But at the end of the day, whether I'm a player or I'm a GM, I care if I had fun. I care if the people around me had fun. If we had a good time, that I didn't waste the last 4 hours of my life. I play games. I play role-playing games, video games, anything that's a leisure pastime. I play it to enjoy myself. So I can't stress enough. Have fun, please. If you take anything from the discussion, that's the one thing you should take. If you're not having fun, whether you're a player or a GM, make changes. Because this is not a job, guys. You do this to enjoy yourselves. And yeah, I mean, that's the last thing I want to say. I wish nothing but the most amazing sessions for everyone, and for everyone to have fun in every game session they play, and your ultimate goal is to try to have fun. Because I'm going to try to do that. Thank you for hearing me out and listening to my BS for the last hour. I'm going to answer one audience question that we had in there. Brilliant loser role. I think we sort of answered this question, but I'll take a shot at it anyway. What are some mechanics from other systems you adapted to Cypher System? Oh, we did. Clocks for one. Clocks, absolutely. Blades in the Dark. Contested roles from Palladium is another thing. I love contested roles, so I try to incorporate contested roles in Cypher any chance I get. You know, that's another mechanic. And the one that I haven't, but I definitely want to do soon, is the light and dark side points from Fantasy Flight Star Wars games. I know it's very similar to XP, but just creating a one that just rotates on and off between the GM and the player that is separate from XP. Maybe I'll do it in the next time we do a Star Wars one shot, but I always like the light and dark side points that you get from Fantasy Flight games. I haven't yet incorporated, but I definitely want to. Those come off the top of my head, off the top of my mind. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out. Is RPGs fun for you? Have you learned anything having this conversation? Is there anything that we said that you absolutely disagree with? Is there anything we forgot that's fun as a GM, as a player? Let us know. We really want to know. Let us know in the chat, or if you're watching this on YouTube, let us know later on YouTube. But I really think this was an important conversation to have, especially for newer GMs. People, you should be having fun as a GM. Don't let anyone else tell you otherwise. You absolutely should be having fun as a GM. And yeah, thank you so much for listening to me. And yeah, let's all have fun. If you like us, and one last thing, I forgot to say this. The Moonbeam is now live. The Anywhere Door Cypher System. We are the moderators for the first year of Monty Cook Games Anywhere Door, which for those that don't know, it's a realm on Moonbeam. Moonbeam is a service that provides a streaming service and a chat service similar to Discord and Twitch, but it kind of fuses them both together. And it's going to be a totally free service, but MCG is kickstarting a thing just so they can pay some of their content creators, some of their streamers. Is a good thing. You don't have to back it, but check it out, please. We have no idea whether Moonbeam's going to be a success or not, but it's going to be a fun ride nonetheless, trying to see how they're going to do it. I'm really interested. We will be streaming on Moonbeam, so if you want to support us, go check it out. You can support us there. But we're going to have a Tuesday show every Tuesday night. Next Tuesday is going to be Al by himself taking over, so that should be interesting. And if you like us and you like what we do, Join the Cypher Unlimited Discord server for all things Monica Games. We have the largest fan Discord server for everything MCG. You know, if Discord's not for you, join our Facebook group. And there's still great conversations being had there daily. It's not our biggest, but you still have a fun time over there. If you find any kindness in your heart, subscribe here on Twitch, or go to our YouTube channel and like, share, subscribe there, and eventually our Moonbeam channel when that opens up in August. But we really trying to grow all these platforms, y'all, and our videos are always free, but you know, any support you can help us with will be greatly appreciated. If you want to help us out financially in any way, even though you don't have to, give us a little donation on Ko-fi. It helps us out with like giveaways and other plans and stuff we're doing. You know, giveaways, cons, printed T-shirts and stuff like that. And last, but if you want some cool Cypher Unlimited merch like the hat I got on, go to our online store. We have all sorts of CU merch there. And yes, CypherCon merch will be there as well to purchase. And last but not least, we love you guys.
Yep. Thank you guys so much for coming by, hanging out. This is a fantastic talk, and look forward to us streaming every Tuesday going forward. Just a small correction. I'm not 100% sure if I'll be taking the reins next week, as I've reserved the 23rd. The same Tuesday, my backer kit goes live for my book, The Entropic Isles. Yeah, so definitely look forward to Tuesdays. We'll see what's going on next week. Look forward to Thursday, where I believe we'll be doing an It's Only Magic walkthrough.
Yes, finally.
All right, yeah. So Dean and Spiggs will be talking about It's Only Magic next week. So not next week, Thursday. Sorry, we're still getting used to these 2 days a week thing. Yeah, so Thursday will be It's Only Magic, and then next week some more goodness on Tuesday. But before I keep rambling, thank you guys so much, and thank you, Spiggs, for taking the reins tonight. And as usual, from us at the CU, we will see you later. Peace.